You got quantum boom times GME. What's there to talk about? Just a lot of things short squeezing, but you know, fundamentally worthless is fundamentally worthless. That's funny, 𝗦𝗑𝗧𝗏 hit like 20 something years ago. Yeah, it's still short. All right, let me look at some requests. BSIX, Macy's, Oscar, there's a lot of requests. NBIS, I've seen a lot of requests for, so maybe I should do NBIS. Nebius Group. Is this hardware? It's kind of hardware. It's maybe cloud. Yeah, I guess cloud. What's the fart coin price? 90 cents. Ooh, a lot of hot air there. Double top, classic. I don't feel like the goat today. My portfolio's down a lot. A lot. Yeah, it's all right. You have to live by the sword and die by the sword, as they say. Well, the quantum shorts are kind of wild. 𝗲𝗂𝗃𝗧𝗏 just coming out of nowhere. New thing on Godel is you can use up and down to open these filings, which is awesome. I don't think so, 𝗕𝗲𝗄𝗏. I'm pretty early to these quantum shorts. Look at the QMCO, really crazy. Up 40%, no news, not even related. Company has nothing to do with quantum. This happens a lot in shorts. The dot-com bubble was worse. The dot-com bubble was much worse. You think this is bad. The dot-com bubble was brutal. It could go on for a while. I am still short. Taking a lot of pain here. Nah, I'm not going to cut my losses. No, Godel is not as comprehensive as Bloomberg yet. It will be, but we are not there. They built their company over 40 years. Whoa, that's a lot of cash. 2.3 billion. Oh, bag holders are trolling us right now. That's all right. I got something. Who is 𝗕𝗂𝗂𝗃? Never heard of it. We're in a bubble. It's a Robin Hood bubble. I mean, retail investors have perfected the gamma squeeze. All right, so there's 199 million shares outstanding. So 5 billion market cap. Sometimes hedge funds are, they short, so they suppress the price a little bit with that extra selling. Well, I'm not looking at the historicals, but last quarter should matter. Oh, they are 𝗕𝗂𝗂𝗃. I don't think this was Yandex. It was a spin out of Yandex. I'm pretty much willing to bet my gender on quantum bubble bursting. There's QSI, there's ARQQ. There isn't a whole lot of detail on Nebius. Yeah, I don't know what to do with Numara yet. I almost don't want to look at it, but I probably should. And this looks pretty expensive. I think quantum bubble has got to be at its peak, but who knows? Well, bubbles don't announce when they burst. Bubbles just burst. Yeah, I don't know. Nebius doesn't sound that great. I think 𝗲𝗂𝗃𝗧𝗏 is a good short. I mean, no, obviously it's not going to be added to the NASDAQ. Yeah, Novus is kind of a fake company too. It's kind of like 𝗲𝗂𝗃𝗧𝗏. Yeah, all these stocks, SoundHound, Huma, everything's been jumping. I have no clue why QMCO is up today. It's so crazy. 45%, no news. It's a tape drive company, for crying out loud. A Novus, nobody trusts their data. Most people think it's fake. That's why its valuation is where it's at. There's a lot of distrust on a Novus. I'm short everything on the bottom of the screen. I'm trying to calculate how much revenue Nebius could have based on their H100 equivalents, and I get 54 million of revenue. So I assume you can rent an H100 for $2 an hour. Maybe you do 250, but regardless, they have $475 million of CapEx for PPE. It's 40,000 in H100. So they have 11,000 H100 equivalents. And if you rent those out at 250, that's 64 million in revenue. So those are my assumptions. So it's sort of fairly valued using that math. Could they keep buying H100s and get a bigger market cap? Maybe, but you're running this big risk of like, will you be able to find users for them? Well, you don't buy more short, you just short more short. Yeah, I think it's a short. Yeah, cash level sounds right. Shorting is when you borrow a stock, that somebody else owns and you sell it in the stock market and you promise to return them their share, that pool of people you borrow from is fungible. It doesn't matter who you borrow from, and that borrow can shift from person to person. As long as there's a pool, think of a big ocean, there's somebody always available to borrow from. And you're basically in debt of one share, and you're hoping to later replace that share with a lower price so that you restore your debt. I'm fully short these stocks now. Rigetti, IonQ, 𝗍𝗂𝗡𝗏. Been a painful day. This is probably my worst P&L day in years, but that happens when you short a bubble. I am short SOUN too. I got all the winners. It's all right. I got something for them. I short bubbles, Miro. Don't tell me not to short bubbles. That's what I do. I'm waiting for my 𝗕𝗏𝗔𝗐 crown. Yeah, I have a lot of longs. What was my worst short ever? I don't know, a lot of them were just timing related. I don't think I have a short that was like, I was just so dead wrong about the company. Okay, somebody wants me to look at WGS, which is GeneDx, diagnostics company. Oh, these guys were Semaphore. Semaphore changed their name? I do remember Intepperdine. I want to see a new quarter of progress for Chegg before I talk about that. Oh, did Semaphore get bought out? Semaphore went bankrupt, right? I don't even remember. Exactly, Kier. They won't return my calls, so they want to go bankrupt. They'd rather go bankrupt than let Shkreli run the place. Yeah, very toppy. I won't even touch Rumble. I got my hands full with these baggies. I don't always buy calls to hedge. Commodities trading is not more complex. It's just a question of, are you a good trader? If you're a great trader, commodities is fantastic because there actually isn't that much to learn. And it's more about your trading instinct. Can you whip it and flip it? I'm just short the common, Jexler. No, I don't read Seeking Alpha too much. What did Seeking Alpha say? Yeah, Angelos, that's right. So if you are a subscriber, you can chat in general chat. I am not covering my short. I'm actually selling the last few call hedges I have. I try not to do anything too complicated. I don't know. Sometimes markets, stocks go up for no reason in particular, and you don't really have to put too much thinking into them. Markets are wilder than you think. For Nebius, I would not be bullish. It's a tough business. I'm not short Nomura. Yeah, EMA is really not friendly. They're not going to let any bad drug get approval. Like missing the primary endpoint, changing the definition of the primary endpoint. They don't play any of that. They'll just tell you, go do a new study. And reimbursement's even worse. Drug will work and they say we're not paying for it. And they got no IP. I have to figure out this whole relationship and history of this company, GeneDx. Do you guys short IQ? I got a good short for you. You could just email me or vice versa. But in general, I like quantum computing stocks as shorts. And I have one very good long as well. Good old Connecticut. Spent a lot of time in Stanford and Greenwich myself, the hedge fund community there, all the Tiger Cubs. I don't know if Chase will make a big comeback or not. Oh, that's great. I love that IQ. Yeah, a lot of VC firms and hedge funds have that dynamic. Their partners always calling me saying, hey, my guys love your stuff. And I feel like I've taught, hundreds or even thousands of young Wall Streeters the ropes. But, learning, you can learn from your colleagues. You can learn what not to do from your colleagues. Some of your colleagues are better at things than other colleagues. It's always a learning game, and it's hard because you also have to take action in the markets. So you can't learn over a lifetime. But I find young people almost always are too quick to act. They want to be right. They want to be big shots right away. And if their bosses are asking them to not necessarily put their neck in the guillotine, then they should just absorb and learn, absorb and learn. But sometimes you can only learn by taking action. So it's a very hard thing to mentor and teach young guys. And the biggest problem is oftentimes the younger guys, once they're a little more seasoned, they'll often jump ship and do something else. So it's hard to find loyal guys too. Really, really tough to be a portfolio manager. in this environment, things are changing a little bit, I think, where people do want to pair up with somebody for longer and longer because it's safer. Finding the right guy to pair up with isn't easy either. Stunning. I feel the same way. I feel like there's a market correction coming. I'm not a beta person. I mean, I don't like to predict what's going to happen en masse to securities or stocks. I just feel like there's so many overvalued stocks that last time this happened is a good time to be bearish. Yeah, I think 𝗣𝗑𝗘 will inevitably go to like 1 at some point. It's my third biggest short. Very painful today, but shorts can be painful. That is part of the game. I don't think the drug does anything. I don't think so, Bodine. Tech and the internet was something that actually did work out in the long run and was a big deal. It was life-changing. Quantum may or may not be life-changing. It's unlikely to be life-changing very soon. It's more likely that the bubble will burst. And even though the tech bubble, the 99, 2000 internet bubble burst, it actually was still valuable. So it shows you that there is a play there where bubbles burst regardless. Even if they ultimately prove to be valuable, bubbles tend to burst. So I do think you're going to see the quantum bubble burst. But the funny thing about bubbles is that they self-propagate. So as they advance, they embolden more people to advance. They create more margin for further purchases. You know, there's a lot of that dynamic happening. So, it's a tricky thing. I don't have any cash garb. At least in this thing. I haven't looked at Geo. Kind of hits too close to home, if you know what I mean. I'm never going to be bullish on, on that stock. I just got to say that I've been a customer, an unwilling customer of their stock. It's just not, you know. My biggest positions are short quantum, short 𝗣𝗑𝗘. Let me see here. Short QMCO, short MicroStrategy, short QUBT, short DJT, short Huma. Those are kind of the bigger ones. Short SoundHound, short Rigetti. I think with enough experience, you just stop caring. It's a young trader that has emotional problems. You get older, I mean, when I was younger, it was a huge problem, but once you get older, you stop caring so much, and I think you get pretty neutralized to it all. But everyone's different, you know. Some people say that you are supposed to use your emotions and convert them into something valuable. I haven't been able to do that, but I like Mark. I talk to Mark every now and then. He's got a great nose, obviously. The one thing about Mark and some of the other guys that are out there as career short sellers from the 80s is that they're very tenacious. I'm a little less tenacious. But everyone has a different personality. When I sink my teeth into a short, I haven't necessarily made up my mind. I am willing to hear the other side, pretty much always. A lot of the guys from that camp, I'll only mention Mark because you mentioned him, but there are many people like him. They have very good instincts, they're very aggressive, but they don't let go. They're like a dog that's bitten down, and they will not let go no matter what. And that's usually a good thing, but occasionally, you know, that's a bad thing too. In general, they're right. I mean, look at what Mark did with mimetics and some of these other things. They're generally usually right. But, you know, it's not always my style, at least, to bite down and never let up. I will let up. Okay, so these guys aren't really Semaphore. Semaphore's revenue is de minimis here relative to the old Gene DX, which makes sense. Nebius, I haven't followed the Riley guy. That's funny, Hood One. I don't think AI will take over software development completely. It's not that easy. You know, one of the hardest things AI doesn't do very well yet is like entire repo. You try to shove more than 1,000 lines of code in GPT, it just can't handle it. You know, transformers aren't really built for that, We need new architectures. Now, I do think things will change a little bit, but we're not looking at the end of software. But it is a fantastic tool. I mean, I think OpenAI will be worth $500 billion, to be honest. I also, I use Cursor. I have Cursor open right now. I have to get out of here at 4 o'clock to go back to work on Cursor. Yeah, Devin, there's magic, there's all kinds of stuff. I think AGI is like a bit of a misnomer. It's just a different kind of intelligence. Human-like intelligence is, I guess, what a lot of people want to say AGI is kind of the definition of. And, we are unique creatures. The same way, I mean, it's a silly example, but looking at my cat, I brought back Trashy, by the way. So any of you old school people who've been watching for a decade, Trashy's here. She's hiding, but I've reunited with Trashy. But the cat is a unique animal too, and the cat is very optimized for certain things, hunting in particular. If you watch even a little house cat hunt, I mean, they're remarkable how they hide and stalk, and they have the perfect timing of surprise, even better than we do, because that's what evolution programmed them to do. They're these amazingly, strong, killers of sorts, right? Oh, Ace 27, that's a good idea. So, we are a different species, and we have strengths and weaknesses. AGI, or O3, or O2, or O1, or whatever OpenAI is built, those things are kind of their own species too. And, they're made less to feel and to use emotions. Like Minsky was the MIT professor who actually had Epstein ties. Minsky was very convinced that emotions played a huge role in our intelligence. Now, whether he was right or wrong, I'm not sure, but clearly when we make LLMs and stuff like that, we're not really prioritizing them to have emotions. So, this unique species will continue to have directed evolution by the programmers that say, for now, the architecture we've had isn't really perfect for software engineering, but it's very good. That architecture will change as we direct it to change. And we say, well, it's really bad at long-term memory and keeping huge amounts of context in place. Well, we're the engineers, we can fix it. Whether we fix it right away or not, it'll eventually have that really long context window where you could say, here is my entire enterprise repo and my entire enterprise topology. All the networks, all the servers, all the software, what do I do? And it looks at it and says, well, I see a bug here. I think you can make this routine 30% faster. And I recommend you moving from this service provider to another. That's the kind of thing we dream for. And you say something like, well, I want you to extend this bond software to stocks too. And it just sits there and works for a day or two and says it's done. Those days are not here yet, and they're probably not going to be here for a little bit longer. But I don't know that the software engineer will ever be replaced, because these are tools that you can use as a software engineer, and the opportunities to create software will go up. When Excel came out, bookkeepers went out of business, but financial analysts 10x'd. Corporate FP&A 10x'd. So, in general, I don't think you're going to have less people interested in using software. You're going to have more people interested in using software. For example, for me, I've been able to value certain options contracts, binary contracts, a lot more easily than I would if I didn't. So I don't want to give away my alpha, but there are certain options contracts that are esoteric, hard to trade, hard to value. And with GPT's help, I've been able to value them very easily. GPT writes the program for me. I know enough programming that I can put it in a for loop and put it on a website, and I can look at a at my front end. And now I have a real-time options evaluation system that's really sophisticated. You know, I didn't have that before. It was too hard for me to build, too complicated. But AI helped me push and do something that 10 people might have taken 10 people to do, and I could do it myself. So, you know, there's going to be an explosion in the need for software developers, because as much as AI will, you know, tell you what to do, it can't really deploy and debug that well. It can assist somebody in deploying and debugging, but it can't really do it. It's not always up to date. For example, I mean, 𝗏1 is not up to date at all. So you have that really great reasoning ability, but it doesn't necessarily know what software was deployed yesterday or the day before. None of these systems know that, really. Will that change? Yes, probably, but those days aren't here yet. And every time a job gets terminated or a use gets terminated for a human software developer, I think 2 new uses open up. So you just have to, software developer, you have to stay malleable and flexible, which is something all software developers know how to do anyway, right? There's no person in software that says, I'm just going to learn React and I'm going to stick to React forever. They know that someday the React gravy train will be over and you're going to have to learn some other framework. And the same thing has applied since time immemorial. I mean, there's nothing that new under the sun. So being a good engineer is always going to be in demand, I think. But I've been wrong before, could be wrong again. Maybe it's the end of software. I mean, some people think it's going to be the end of math. That's much harder as a human to be creative. These machines are horrible at being creative. They're very good at applying analogical reasoning. They can form analogies really well. But creativity is something that is an analogy to something surprising or difficult to see analogy, or something just out of the blue, a new idea that's just a try, instinct, error, you know, things like that. And machines are terrible at that. So I don't think some of those things are going to go away. So, and if you've ever used some of these machines, you know what their shortcomings are. I mean, they're good, they're not that good.